Imagine a world drowning in IOUs. Today, the global debt has crossed $324 trillion, which is more than the 3 times of the size of world's economy.
Governments around the world are addicted to debt.
The sovereign debt levels globally have just grown exponentially.
In the case of the developed countries, the average ratio of public debt to GDP is now back to where it was in 1945. That's rather striking.
It's politically impossible to solve.
Exploding debt is a real worry. If you're an investor, you start wondering what's going to happen and whether there's going to be debt default.
The music stops when you get a major crisis.
The United States alone is sitting on a debt level of $37 trillion, which is 123% of its GDP. Across the Pacific, China is carrying a hidden mountain, total debt over 300% of its GDP. In fact, most countries on this globe are under debt. So here's the real question. If most countries on the globe, including the 2 superpowers, China and USA, are in red, who exactly is lending all this money? And what happens if one day they can't repay their debt? Debt begins as a simple promise. Governments spend more than they collect on roads, defense, education, welfare. To bridge the gap, they borrow, issuing bonds. So the question arises is, who buys these bonds? Sometimes the other countries, sometimes banks, pension funds, even insurance companies, and often, unknowingly, it's you. Your retirement fund, your pension funds, your mutual funds, even your bank deposits is probably linked to some government debts. Take the United States. Most of its debt is held domestically by American institutions, pension funds, and even the Federal Reserve. Foreign players like Japan and China still holds big chunks. But the average American citizen, through its savings and investments, is a quiet lender to its own government. China's systems is different. Their biggest lenders are at home. State-owned banks, local governments, and financial vehicles you and I may never hear of. The money circulates within China's own closed system, but that makes it riskier. If one domino falls, the entire system wobbles. To understand the scale of burden, let us put some numbers in perspective. The US spends over $1 trillion every year on the interest payments itself. Now this money could fund schools, healthcare, or infrastructure. China's local governments owe trillions through hidden debts called LGFVs, which is Local Government Financing Vehicles. LGFVs are state-owned entities established by the local government, which means they were used to bypass direct borrowing restrictions and access private capital markets to public fund investments like roads, bridges, and railways. They used to rely on land sales to pay back. But with the real estate markets collapsing, those revenues are drying up. Debt isn't growing. It is snowballing every year. More borrowings are needed simply to pay interest on the old borrowings. That is when debt turns into trap from tool. What is your view about it? Do mention in the comments. Now here lies the paradox. Without debt, nations can't grow. Debts fund highways, fund research, keep armies strong. But when debt outpaces growth, it becomes a ticking time bomb. For the US, rising interests are squeezing the budgets. For China, the falling property prices are exposing the cracks in its debt system. Both these giants are addicted to borrowing, and both are vulnerable if confidence breaks. So what happens if countries can't repay? History shows us defaults, currency collapses, market crashes. Argentina, Greece, Sri Lanka all warn us as to what is on stake. But here's the difference. When world's 2 largest economies carry their debt this large, their problems do not stay at home. A crisis in Washington or Beijing could send shockwaves across the globe through every stock market, every currency, and every ordinary family saving across the globe. So who really owns the world's debt? Banks? Funds? Foreign governments? Yes, but ultimately, you and I, every worker, every saver, every taxpayer is tied into this giant web of promises. The bigger question is not how much is owed, but how long can the world keep building this mountain before it collapses due to its own weight? Please do share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to share it with someone who may need to know. And if you have liked the content of this video, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Be inspired, keep building.